everybody, and welcome to our review of Gran Turismo. Brum, brum, brum. A new sports car, biopic, racing, action, movie, all sorts of things. And if in terms of movies based on video games, probably arguably the best, but we'll get into that in a minute. Anyway, this is, of course, my fiancee, Kylie, who, if you saw our review of Talk to Me, you'll remember her from that. Say hello, Kylie.
Hello, Kylie.
And anyway, so Gran Turismo is a film that I had no interest in seeing whatsoever. I have maybe on a scale of 1 to 100 of my interest in sports racing, maybe about a 2.5. I do like the games, but in all honesty, I haven't played one probably since the PS2, maybe 3, I can't remember. So I'm not really the target audience for this film. But certain people
maybe me
wanted to go and see it. So yeah, anyway, we went along to a premiere last week, and yeah, so the film essentially tells the story of a young guy named Jan Mardenborough, who was a British car racer who actually was part of a program that Nissan put together where they wanted to recruit video game players into a sports racing program, which initially I didn't actually know that. I didn't really know what the movie was about, but when I found that out, I was like, okay, that is interesting. So I thought, we'll check it out. And yeah, wowzers, this film is really, really good. So it's directed by Neil Blomkamp, who previously has given us such movies as District 9 and Chappie, one of those of which is a really good movie. And yeah, so it stars a bunch of people like Orlando Bloom, David Harbour, the guy who plays Jan Mardenborough. Archie Madekwe plays Jan Mardenborough in this film. There you go. They're probably the most notable people who are in this. So yeah, and yeah, just basically, like I said, it's a biopic. It tells the story of Jan's rise to fame and stuff. And yeah, I absolutely loved this film, but not as much as some people who have proclaimed this film as their number one film of the year. And why is that?
Because if you're into a car racing like I was since I was a little kid, then this movie is so for you. If you're into cars in like real life, like your Holdens, your Nissans, your Fords, whatever, your hotted up cars, this is the movie for you. Just everything about cars that you would love is in this movie. The intenseness of having to be in like races and having to go high speed and just everything like that. It's not like going go-karting, it's so much more, and it just takes one split second to have to make certain choices or react in a certain way. And yeah, it's an amazing film.
Yeah, and the reason why I really wanted Kylie to be here is because of that point of view, because like I said, I am not into car racing, but this movie did it for me. Yeah, the race sequences are nothing short of exhilarating. The way that they're shot, the way the camera moves about, like, yeah, it makes
you feel like you're actually there.
It really does. And
yeah, on the other side of the screen, you're actually in there experiencing what's going on, the atmosphere and just the excitement and the sadness, and it's just everything.
Yeah, the fact that they put a lot of emotion into the race sequences, I thought was they did such a top-notch job of that. For me personally, though, I thought the story of Jan's rise, because he starts off, at home. His father, played by Jimon Hounsou, who is just freaking brilliant in everything he's ever been in. Yeah, it had that whole dynamic of, the father telling the son, you're never going to be good at this, like, quit playing video games, you're never going to amount to anything if you keep doing that, go and get a real job. And I love that kind of family drama dynamic. So that, for me, was the best part. And, of course, I mean, because it's a biopic, we know that he's going to shoot to superstardom as a car racer. So yeah, it was that kind of like, Dad, you're going to get yours coming to you. So yeah, it's really interesting watching him go through the process of the GT Academy, into his first races. David Harbour, I've got to talk about him because
He's amazing.
to me, he was the standout of the film. I'm not a huge David Harbour fan, but my God, he was this film's heart and soul. And as a friend of mine pointed out to me, I think the reason I tapped into his character so much is because he was a lot like me when it comes to this film. He started off as this guy that Orlando Bloom's character Danny had to try and convince that this was a good idea to bring video game players into car racing. And he was a complete skeptic at first. And then by the time he started seeing what these kids could do, he completely changed his tune. And yeah, that was kind of me watching the film. I was, started off like, oh my God, a film about car racing, never going to work. By the end of the film, I loved it. I walked out of the theater feeling so damn great. There were some things that didn't make it a perfect movie for me. I thought there's a character named Audrey who is the love interest in the film who was completely pointless. I mean, it didn't hurt the film in any way, but if you just took all of her scenes out, it wouldn't change the story in any sort of way. I think had she been someone who really inspired Jan and motivated him to become, someone great, that might have been better, but she was useless. I'm just telling it like it is. That's what the people want.
There was no point in her being there at all. Yeah, you wouldn't have missed it if it wasn't there. I guess you have to have a love interest in movies. I don't know, but yeah, I don't think you needed it for something like this.
Yeah, it's not like she was someone who inspired someone who had retired their YouTube channel to start doing reviews again. But
I wonder who that was.
I wonder who that was. Not only that, I did kind of think the pacing of the film was a little bit scattered. There were a lot of scenes that felt almost more like a montage rather than a scene playing out. So I thought the editing was a little bit choppy here and there. They did, but I mean, I get it. Like they had to try and cram this entire story into, around about a 2-hour film. So I get that, but I did sort of feel some of the scenes just took me out of the emotion a little bit. But that's really all I could fault the film on. Do you have any faults at all that brought the film down?
Apart from the love interest, no, not really.
Well, there you go.
People that know me know how much I love cars, how much my family love cars, how I was brought up surrounded by cars. If you were like me, you would understand why this movie means so much to me and why it just made me feel the way I did after it, it was definitely a really good movie for me.
I've also got to hand it to the special effects wizardry in it, because there were just some scenes where, like, there's one which you see in the trailer where Jan is sitting in a video game rig, and a car kind of builds itself around him, with special effects and stuff. And they did that a couple of times in the film, and it was great. It just, it wasn't special effects for the sake of special effects. It was there to remind you of his roots. It was there to remind you that he was there because of his video game knowledge and stuff. Yeah. And so the special effects were put to really good use. There was a couple of great surprises in the film as well, which I am not going to spoil, of course, but a couple of moments that really had me wowed, some intense stuff in there. Look, at the end of the day, I would own it on Blu-ray. I probably wouldn't get it on day one. I'd probably wait till it was a little bit cheaper. But it is definitely a kind of film you could watch again. And you'd rewatch it, wouldn't you?
Watching it again and again and again.
Yes, because someone will be like, "Hey, what do you want to watch tonight?" Gran Turismo again. Okay, no worries. We've already watched it 3 times today. But anyway, so look, at the end of the day, go and see Gran Turismo. It is a really solid film. Like I said, in terms of action and the sports racing stuff and everything, it's top notch. But in terms of an underdog, rise to glory kind of a story, I thought it definitely won on that level. It actually kind of, for me, had sort of Top Gun vibes in a way. Also, maybe a little bit of Last Starfighter. So if you're a Last Starfighter fan, you'll get the whole, recruited from a video game thing. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, I really enjoyed Gran Turismo, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
And I'm going to give it a 9.5, only because I don't think you needed the love interest part, but that is the only thing that I can fault, to be honest. So yeah, if you cut that out, yeah, would have probably been a 10 out of 10, but definitely recommend to go see it.
All right, so there you go. That is our thoughts on Gran Turismo. Yeah, and I know it hasn't come out yet, but by all means, definitely go and check it out. See it on the biggest screen. This is definitely a big screen, big sound, big audience movie. So yes, thank you very much to my gorgeous fiancee Kylie for joining me and giving a different perspective on this. So yeah, look, yeah, go and see it. If you have seen Gran Turismo already, we would love to know what you thought about it. So drop us some comments below, because I like to talk about movies, and we'd love to talk about movies with you. Catch you next time.
Bye.
Click subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest movie reviews. Skynet will be taking over any day now, so what have you got to lose? Nyah.